We all have that voice in our heads that tells us to do stuffs. The voice that tells us when we're doing great and also when we've messed up. Sometimes it tells us some pleasant things about ourselves and our experiences that we tend to believe, and some other times it tells us the opposite. But today I'm going to be talking about the voice in your head that constantly tells you negative things about yourself. The one that is critical about every little thing you do, from your actions to your appearance and even in your communication with others. I have this voice in my head, if I'm being honest, and the truth is you also have this voice in your head, although what it tells us differs. But the fact is that whatever it says always leaves us feeling discouraged and disappointed in ourselves and what we have to offer. So I took it upon myself to find out how to change the narrative of whatever this voice says, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you in today's episode, so stay tuned. Welcome to Healthy Minds Talk, a podcast created to help you grow, bring awareness to mental health, and also remind you that it's not all in your head. There's hope, even when your brain tells you there isn't. I'm Praise Victor, and I remain your host on this show. Have you ever been in a situation where you found yourself replying to yourself? It sounds crazy, but it's like you're having a conversation with someone, but that someone is yourself. You might choose to reply to this voice in your mind, or like me, you choose to reply physically, like you're talking to another human. And this is why people say I'm crazy, but I'm not. In whatever way you reply to this voice, I just want you to know that this is absolutely normal. And this process of you hearing that voice in your head and replying back is what is commonly known as self-talk. Now, according to Ellen Mead, self-talk is the internal narrative you hold about yourself. It's you having a conversation with your inner voice, and this inner voice that you hear is a combination of conscious thoughts with inbuilt beliefs and biases to create an internal monologue throughout the day. Self-talk is very important because it's like the script that we use to frame our lives. Indeed, it can actually be helpful, but it can also be harmful some other times, and it just all depends on the situation we find ourselves in and also the emotions that come along with it. It's often said that self-talk is very advisable for athletes because it helps them to increase their performance and overall well-being. So yes, self-talk can help you improve your sense of self, only when it's positive though. And if you didn't know before, how you talk and relate with yourself influences how you also relate with others. Your self-talk has a great impact on your mental health and also your relationship with others. It can motivate you to be better, and it can also undermine your confidence. So if you have negative thoughts about yourself, or your inner voice constantly relates with you in a pessimistic way, you might unconsciously be engaging in negative self-talk. And what is negative self-talk? Negative self-talk is just like the conversation you have with your inner critic. And this conversation happens a lot of the time. It's this inner dialogue that involves you beating yourself up. It's basically just like you talking trash about yourself, actually. And there's this licensed therapist that said that negative self-talk is when we internalize and accept negative messages about who we are, how we should act, and also how we should feel from outside sources. So yes, negative self-talk can start small, like you constantly reminding yourself about the little things you don't like about yourself, which can actually be as a result of, what you've heard about others criticizing you, like what others have criticized about you, that you now subconsciously reflect on yourself and you criticize yourself about that stuff too. And there are so many other causes of negative self-talk, like low self-esteem, spending too much time alone, spending too much time around negative people, anxiety and depression, disappointments and mistakes, and also not asking for help can actually cause negative self-talk. And if you're just wondering what exactly does negative self-talk sounds like, it sounds like you telling yourself, now just put it in quotes, I'm such a failure, I can't even get anything right. Or you telling yourself, I don't want to try because I know I'll be terrible at it. or it's not going to end well, nothing ever ends well for me, or I'm so fat and unattractive, I'm so dumb, I always say something stupid, and just all these things that you didn't even realize that they're actually little ways that you're framing how you see yourself, and you're using that to describe yourself. They are all forms of negative self-talk. And in psychology, the types of negative self-talk are called cognitive distortions. I love psychology, so there's always a psychological part in every episode. So yeah, there are different types of negative self-talk, and they are called cognitive distortions, and they are basically unrealistic explanations that we give ourselves about what's going on in our lives. There are actually so many. There's mind reading. Now, mind reading, this form of negative self-talk shows you that you don't have to literally say something negative before it's negative. I know that sounded confusing, but basically what I meant was you don't have to say something so specific like you hate yourself or you're stupid or something along that line before you know that you're engaging in negative self-talk. Mind reading is a form of negative self-talk where you just imagine what someone is thinking about you, and you just suddenly come to the conclusion that it's going to be negative. For example, let's say your friend or your roommate comes into the room frowning, and you just tell yourself something like, she's upset with me, or I'm pretty sure he's irritated by my presence. That kind of thing. And I know that it might be hard to spot, you might not necessarily term that as negative self-talk, but this is a very realistic example of mind reading, and it's a form of negative self-talk. So if you didn't know that before, now you know better. And overgeneralization, now this is another type of negative self-talk, and it's just this habit of telling yourself that something negative will happen in the nearest future due to the fact that something in your present didn't go well. For example, let's say you're a student and you didn't pass a test. And now you come to the conclusion that the same thing is going to happen in your examinations. So you just consistently tell yourself something like, I'm such a failure, or I know that I'm going to fail the exams too, just because you failed the test. And now, so you just adopt this mindset that you're going to fail the exams too. And you keep telling yourself that. And the thing is, if you keep telling yourself that, you might just end up failing the exams too. And it's not because you didn't read well or you didn't prepare well for it. It's just because you already had that mindset that you're going to fail. So another form of negative self-talk is magnification. Now, due to the fact that we are all imperfect, magnification occurs when you take your imperfections or flaws and you exaggerate on them. You probably made a mistake, because we all make mistakes, right? And now you won't even give yourself a break for it. For example, let's say you went for an event or just a little gathering with friends and probably a few strangers, and you stepped on your dress or you slipped and you fell. And now you tell yourself something like, what is wrong with me? I can't even walk well anymore. Am I that old already? I know it sounds funny, but sometimes certain people do this, and it's actually, I wouldn't exactly say it's normal. I mean, it's like an embarrassing moment, but you telling yourself or you just criticizing yourself for falling down, which was not even your fault, it's just a form of negative self-talk that you need to be aware of. Now, minimization is oddly similar to magnification, and it's basically just when you make your strengths and positive attributes look so small in your head, and you just choose to focus more on your flaws, thereby making yourself feel inferior. For example, I feel like this one is very common among scholars in quote, just like people that like to be at the top. So, for example, let's say you got an 85 in an examination, but then you still beat yourself up for not acing it completely and getting 100%. I know that sounds so funny and weird, but the thing is, I think that I've actually done this to myself before. It's like you write an exam and you have this particular score in your mind that you're going to get, and then you still pass the exam but you don't get that particular score, and then you just beat yourself up about it. That's a very good example of minimization. Now, there's also labeling, and this one is like the most common form of negative self-talk. It's just the habit of describing yourself in a negative way. For example, telling yourself that I'm such a bad person, I'm so dumb, I'm so fat, no one would even want to be with me, I'm so thin and ugly, and you just describing yourself in this particular negative way. Like, you ignore all the good things about yourself. You don't even, when like you keep on describing yourself in this particular way, you don't even appreciate or accept the compliments that other people give you, because it's already set in your subconscious that this is exactly how you are, and whatever else they say, they're lying to you and they're just trying to make you feel better. But that is like a very common form of negative self-talk. And the last form of negative self-talk I have here is emotional reasoning. Now, it's very easy to understand this one because I feel like most of us, myself included, unconsciously do it. Now, emotional reasoning happens when we make decisions based on how we feel. For example, let's say you don't feel like doing anything, yet you have an important task that you have to complete, but then you just sit back and relax and not do it because you don't feel like it. So basically, because you're not in the mood to do stuff, you don't do what's needed to be done. I'm gonna come up straight up front, to be very honest. I do this and I'm not proud of it, but then I don't know, I'm trying to change gradually, consciously. So and there are so many negative effects. Definitely there are going to be negative effects of negative self-talk because it's negative self-talk, right? So definitely the effects will be negative. And negative self-talk leads to perfectionism, due to the fact that you unconsciously pick on yourself and you judge every little thing you do. You begin to believe that whatever you have to offer isn't enough, so you strive for perfection. And I think I said this in the last episode, that perfection is not excellence. So negative self-talk also leads to limited thinking. You limit your ability to think outside the box because you always see yourself and your situation in a specific negative lens. And it leads to imposter syndrome because your inner critic constantly tells you that you're not good enough. You begin to see yourself as a fraud and unqualified for your achievement. And this can even lead to missed opportunities. When you don't believe in yourself enough, and when you just constantly criticize yourself and what you have to offer, and you feel like you're not really good, that people are just trying to make you feel better, you don't encourage yourself to, leave your comfort zone and go for opportunities that will actually take you higher. And negative self-talk can also lead to relationship drama. Now, this one, I feel like this should be common because your constant self-criticism will show up as an insecurity in your relationship, which brings up different issues that shouldn't even be existing in the first place. So yes, negative self-talk is very dangerous, and it can also feed on anxiety and depression. If you have like symptoms of anxiety and depression and you just constantly criticize yourself, you're definitely going to that is like a huge effect of negative self-talk. So to the juice of today, which is like how to rephrase your negative self-talk or how to change your negative self-talk. Now, I'm just going to be very honest with you. No matter how good you are or how hard you try, there's always going to be that voice in your head that would want to bring you down. So I'm not going to tell you specifically that you can kill that voice, in quote. Instead, I'm going to tell you how to change it or reframe whatever the negative voice has to tell you. And I came up with this thing. The easiest way to actually do this is to start having positive self-talk with yourself by employing your inner coach. Now, this inner coach is something I just created. And like when you're a kid, like when you were a kid rather, and you made grammatical errors in sentences and they corrected you almost immediately, that's like the same role your inner coach plays here. Because negative self-talk is just like you listening to what your inner critic has to tell you, and you just telling yourself, repeating what your inner critic has to tell you. So basically, if you want to change or rephrase that, would I say, employ, or you have to hire an inner coach, and that inner coach is also you, but that inner coach is just this other voice that rephrases whatever your inner critic has to say. Like your inner coach helps you counter every negative thing that your inner critic has to say. Basically, that's the job of your inner coach. And now the first step that you should take if you want to like rephrase negative self-talk is to be aware. I mean, self-awareness is like the first step to solving every problem that you have. Whatever problem it is, might not necessarily even be negative self-talk, but whatever issue it is that you're facing, you have to be like aware that, okay, there's a problem. And once you're like aware of a problem, then you're like one step closer to providing a solution for that. So yes, be aware. Identifying when negative thoughts actually spring up is the first step to overcoming it. It might be when you're alone, or after you lost a job, or you just ended a like very special relationship, and probably even when you did well, you just find yourself having these negative thoughts. You just like need to pay close attention to when your self-talk starts spiraling towards negativity. What events or people make you start having thought patterns that incite negative thoughts? What thoughts come up often and why? You just have to think about why you started having negative thoughts in the first place, and if what those thoughts tell you are true or not. Ask yourself questions like, how accurate is this thought? Am I simply overreacting as a result of what happened? Where did this thought come from? Is it a reflection of another person's opinion, or is it a fact? Do I really believe this? And if I do, why do I believe it? Just asking yourself these questions and answering them honestly, and even reflecting on those answers, can help you find the root cause of negativity. And once you find the root cause of what the problem is, you can think, or you can find out on how you can counter these assumptions with positive self-talk. Now, the next thing I want you to do is to practice affirmations. I always stress on the importance of repeating positive affirmations. Now, repeating affirmations are like the best way to employ your inner coach, because affirmations are positive statements that help you overcome negative thoughts and your inner critic. So repeating affirmations is just like repeating exercises to improve your body, and you repeat exercises to improve your body while you repeat positive affirmations to improve your mind. They are such a great way to correct whatever your inner critic says. Imagine probably you're having a conversation with someone. Would I say a conversation? Or let's say you're having a minor argument with someone, and they're trying to bring you down, and you just have this nice perfect comeback at them. That's just what affirmations are. They're nice comebacks or nice replies that shut your inner critic up. For example, your inner critic says something like, "You're not good enough." You just try countering that immediately with, "I am enough and worthy of every good thing life has to offer." Or you find yourself constantly criticizing your body, try saying something like, "I love my body and what it does for me." Other examples of affirmations you can say to improve positive self-talk are, "I am strong and can get through this. It's going to work out. I am proud of myself and my growth. I can't control other people's thoughts or actions, but I can control mine, and I choose to focus on that. I choose to learn from this mistake and do better next time. This is like the best, honestly, the best and the easiest way to rephrase your self-talk. So yes, I would definitely advise for you to start practicing affirmations. And if you need a list of affirmations, you can go online and search for the affirmations you're looking for. You can look for affirmations under self-worth, self-love, self-confidence, self-talk, and so many of other affirmations that can really help you. They are online, and I might just, create my own affirmation list and give it out to you guys as a freebie. So yes, basically, affirmations are the easiest and the best ways to rephrase your self-talk. Now, the next thing I want you to do is surround yourself with positive people. Positivity is actually contagious, and so also is negativity. If the people you hang around with give you nothing but negativity, you might want to rethink being in that friend group. Who you spend time with reflects how you feel about yourself. If your association brings you down, you subconsciously continue to bring yourself down. So yes, protect your energy and be in the presence of people that encourage you to do better and bring out the best in you. Also, you should actually do the same thing for them, right? You should also encourage your friends to reach their full potential. Now, the next thing I might advise you to do is listen to uplifting music. Now, I know that I'm not the only one that does the opposite of this. Most times, then when I used to feel down, I just play sad songs, which in turn makes me feel worse, but I still keep listening to them because there's just that, warmth and comfortability that comes with knowing that there are also celebrities out there that feel the way you feel. And I get that. It's actually great, but it's not helpful. But I said listening to uplifting music, right? And listening to uplifting music does not exactly mean listening to upbeat music. Listening to upbeat music too can help when you're feeling down, but when it comes to battling your inner critic, uplifting music let's say meditation music or songs from your favorite artists that have encouraging lyrics are very advisable, as long as the lyrics are not something that make you feel worse about yourself. Then yes, absolutely go for it. They always say that the little things matter, right? Well, music matters too, and it really helps. So yes, uplifting music will not actually silence your inner critic, but it would direct you to see things from another perspective. It's even a better perspective. So yes, now the last step I'm going to be sharing today on how to refresh your negative self-talk is to talk to someone about it, preferably a professional. If you've tried to change your habits and you feel like you're doing all the right things, you're listening to uplifting podcasts, you're repeating affirmations, and you're doing all of that, but it seems like nothing is changing, I'll actually advise you to see a professional counselor or therapist. Now, therapists and other mental health experts can assist you in identifying the sources of negative inner dialogue that you have and also how to rephrase it. So yeah, you can find therapists online or in your remote area. And before I go today, I just want you to remember that your inner dialogue will either fuel your success or prevent you from reaching your full potential. So be mindful of how you talk to yourself today and every other day, not just today, every other single day. Now, rephrasing your inner dialogue might take time, but you need to give yourself the love and compassion that is required when you notice any slip up in your inner conversations. We've come to the end of today's episode, and I am so grateful that you tuned in today. If you really enjoyed this episode on self-talk, please share it and help Healthy Minds Talk reach even more amazing listeners like you. Be sure to check out our Instagram page at This My Little World, where we post really helpful content every day on how you can improve your mindset and also your mental health and emotional well-being. And follow me on Twitter at Rephrase_HM, where I also share similar things to what I share on my Instagram page. And the links will be in the description, and I will see you next Monday.